Thank you for downloading this in-ear entertainment podcast. You're listening to Shakespeare's Sonnets. Sonnet 31. Thy bosom is endeared with all hearts, which I by lacking have supposed dead. And there reigns love, and all love's loving parts, and all these friends which I thought buried. How many a holy and obsequious tear hath dear religious love stol'n from mine eye, as interest of the dead, which now appear but things removed that hidden in thee lie. Thou art the grave where buried love doth live, hung with the trophies of my lovers gone, who all their parts of me to thee did give. That due of many now is thine alone. Their images I loved, I view in thee, and thou, or they, hast all the all of me. That was Sonnet 31. I am nailing these sonnets. I'm so happy. We are going through Shakespeare's sonnets. I am joined by let's think of some adjectives. Very snappily dressed, very, very witty, sharp wit, silver-tongued Thierry. Say hello, Thierry.
Hello.
See?
I'm not sure if sharply dressed is... I'm wearing my university sweater. It's not really...
It's smarter dressed than me, who has just put on the same clothes from yesterday, because I'm a slob.
You've got... It is an epic banana jumper, though.
It's a banana jumper, which was designed by my cousin-in-law, who did a master's in men's knitwear, which I didn't know existed, which I think is awesome because it does exist. And he did that, and he's had fashion shows, and he now designs men's knitwear for a online company. There are many online companies, but he does it for one specific one, and it's a jumper with bananas on it, and it's awesome, and I love it. That has nothing to do with this sonnet at all. But...
Yeah, we can work it in.
We can work it in somehow. Bananas. We just need bananas or jumpers. What do you think about this sonnet? I keep passing them off to you to start with because, yeah, why not?
I quite like the idea that all the loves that preceded this one have sort of just been a preparation for this big love now, which is sort of the feeling that I'm getting from this one.
I have to say that's not quite how I read it, but I quite like that reading. The way I read it, I suppose, is that the fair youth is like an amalgamation of all his loves. So in the where it is, hung with the trophies of my lovers gone, who all their parts of me to thee did give. So I was seeing the young love as taking on the qualities of all the other people that Shakespeare has loved throughout the ages and becomes like an uber Shakespeare date. As if you could go through your exes and go, well, I really like this part and this part and this part, but not that, so I'm going to get rid of that and take all the good ones and mix it with this other person and make your ideal partner. Kind of Frankenstein-y, or Frankenstein's monstery.
It is, yeah, I get that. It is very, very strange. I guess sometimes you meet people who have different qualities that you've only known in several different people up until that point. But this does actually sound like, I've took all the bits that I liked and put them into this one. But then again, as you said before, if he's creating this perfect image, then that's a fairly easy thing to do, to just see all those qualities that you want to see in one single person.
Yes, and yeah, it does lead into the Shakespeare seeing what he wants to see rather than what is actually there. Because I guess at this point, the sonnets were fairly early in Shakespeare's career, weren't they? They were one of the earlier things he did. And so he wouldn't have been old at the time, but he wouldn't have been young. I imagine he would have been approaching middle age of the time, I guess. So maybe the fair youth is his middle age, his midlife crisis. The fair youth is his Ferrari when they didn't have Ferraris.
Wow, that's yeah.
It's possible. I don't know. Just the idea of imbuing someone with all the qualities of your exes, because I suppose when you think of exes, there are two ways you can go, which is you can either hate and despise everything that they they represented and they are, or you can enjoy the bits you'd enjoyed and sort of admit that they had their flaws and the flaws were just too big for you to overcome, I guess. And it sounds like Shakespeare is doing the latter and is then taking the parts he likes and imbuing them into someone else.
He was actually towards the end of his life when he published the sonnets. I've just checked.
Well,
1609. We know that one.
So that makes him even older. So yeah, maybe this is his midlife crisis, or he's a dirty old man, and he is creating his perfect man, woman, date, lover, perfect lover.
I mean, from today's point of view, it would be the midlife crisis. He died in 1616.
Yeah.
When he was about 52. We're not quite sure when he was actually born.
Yeah, so he'd be 40.
So, yeah, in his 40s, yeah.
So maybe that works. I've just cracked the sonnets. It's Shakespeare's midlife crisis. It's kind of cutting insight like that is why people listen to this podcast.
We finally understand. That's what all the literature analyses have been trying to come up with, and you've cracked it finally.
In 31 sonnets. Not even them all. 31.
Completely ignoring the 120 that are still to come.
Yes. Yeah, more than 123 to come, isn't it? 154 altogether. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice. I think it's quite a nice poem. It has an odd rhythm in places. The last bit, their images I loved, I view in thee, and thou or they hast all the all of me. It's quite an odd. It's taken me a couple of. I was reading these before I recorded because I've started practicing. You may have noticed reading them, and it took me a good couple of run-throughs to get my tongue around the meter of those words.
It is a very, very strange line, even for Shakespeare.
Yeah. Their images I loved, I view in thee. So it is that imbuing. What I loved about my previous lovers, I now see in you. And thou, or they, hast all the all of me. So Shakespeare almost is saying he sees himself in the young lover as well. So there's kind of a bit of a self-loving going on. In
a bit of narcissism.
Yeah, that's the proper word. That's what I was trying to search for. Yeah, there's a bit of narcissism in all this. And maybe sort of the going, not to be crude, but the sort of masturbatory imagery we had before coming back, in the sense that
he's having traffic with
thyself. Yeah.
What was it? Thy own self.
Yeah. He loves himself, and he sees all his lover's best parts and all his best parts reflected in the fair youth. Possibly.
Which makes it even weirder than just seeing former lovers in someone.
Yeah. To see an enhanced version of yourself is yeah. I wouldn't date myself.
You complete me and all the other people I've ever slept with.
It's like a cascade, is what it is. Yeah. There's I'm going to go back. There's an episode of Red Dwarf where they go to a space station, and there's an entity on the space station that it becomes an amalgamation of anyone who else is on this space station. It's called Legion. And so the four of them turn up on the space station, and then Legion becomes all four people merged together. It's very, very good. And the only way they survive is by knocking each other out. So that anyway, doesn't really have any resemblance here, but I quite like that episode. It starts off. It's quite an interesting. It seems to flip between very loving language and very. Trying to think of a way of expressing this. Very like love lettery kind of language. Thy bosom is endeared with all the hearts, and then it kind of switches into religious. So it's got how many a holy and obsequious tear hath dear religious love stolen from mine eye, and then it goes back to the kind of loving language again. So it's quite an odd sandwich. So it's like a religious sandwich of sex, is what this is. It kind of goes.
You can
sexy,
have
religious
sex, but you need to feel bad about it.
Yes, and all the religious bits are about we were having fun with the word beforehand. Obsequious. That's it. Obsequious, which is sort of servile and servant type language, I guess. Is that correct? Did I just misdo that word?
What does it mean? I still have the... My internet is so... Maybe that's the problem. My internet is very, very slow today. It's servile complacence.
Yeah, which is what religion wants. Religion is about being servile. And so how many a holy and obsequious tear have dear religious love stolen from my eye, as interest of the dead which now appear, but these things removed that hidden in thee lie. So he's saying the things that religion has taken from him, the tears that religion has made him shed, he kind of gets back in the young lover, maybe. Again, it's that sense of the young lover bringing things back, to making things equal. Does that make any sense at all?
Well, to me it makes sense.
I'm just very convinced.
Whether it makes sense to any scholars, yeah.
Yes, they're screaming at us, going, "What? This? Maybe we're going to become famous for the people who misread every single sonnet. That wouldn't be good." But there's no wrong answer in English, as people who would never take an English degree in their life used to tell me. There's no wrong answer. It's all opinions, and it's just rubbish. There are wrong answers in English. If you read war poetry and you say, oh, this is about... if you read like World War II poetry and say it's about the occupation of Iraq, you're wrong. That is a wrong opinion. It is not all opinions. You can be wrong in English. Anyway, there's a mini rant there.
That should be the slogan of this podcast.
You can be wrong in English. Maybe it should. What did you think? Go on. I'm doing too much talking. What do you think? Tell me more. Educate me.
Oh, I've completely lost my train of thought now. God, my mind's completely wandered off now.
Educate me, and it just goes to dead air. Thanks.
That's pretty much what happened. Now my brain just went nothing. White noise.
I do like the end image, which is quite is it macabre sort of ending. Thou art the grave where buried love doth lie, hung with the trophies of my lovers gone, who all their parts of me to thee did give. That due of many now is thine alone. I love the idea that the young youth is being compared to a grave hung with trophies as well. It's such a very odd image after we've had all of the sonnets leading up to this have been all about fighting nature, or you are prettier than nature. Nature will die, but your brightness and your beauty will go on. And now he's being told you're like a grave that's hung with trophies. And it's quite an interesting flip, I think.
But then we've had... there's quite a lot of death in this one. We've had as interest of the dead which now appear, but things removed that hidden in thee lie. So even there's the grieving of the people that have already died. It's quite an odd image, but it sort of appears throughout the sonnet.
Yeah, that death is taking things away, and the lover brings them back somehow. So maybe it's the sense we've been talking about, the other loves live on in the youth. It is just that. It's the idea that Shakespeare's able to recapture his old relationships through this new relationship. That being in love with you is like I'm still in love with the others. That part of them lives on. That relationship hasn't ended. Shakespeare seems very obsessed with things ending and disappearing, which is interesting. When the relationship ends, the love ends. That I don't agree with that personally, but that seems to be Shakespeare's view, and so the new relationship allows him to, in some way, carry that love forward. Am I just sounding like an arrogant weirdo at the moment?
I did look further into the obsequious word, and apparently it's now obsolete, but it used to also pertain to funeral rites.
Okay. Which yeah, then that
so I guess that would be another, yeah.
Yeah, how many are holy and obsequious?
More death.
Here? So he's almost blaming, if you take that reading to its extreme, with lines 5 and 6, it's almost saying that religion is stealing his lovers from him, in the sense that they die, and religion is responsible for death. It's the holy and obsequious tier. Have dear religious love stolen from mine eye. Which is
which sort of makes sense. I mean, they thought that God controlled all life, and that God decides when people... Well, some people still do today, that God decides when people die. So religion would be responsible for the death of the former love, or the old loves.
Yeah, and then to blame religion as well. It's a very un-Christian thing, unreligious thing maybe. Let's try and keep it general. An unreligious thing to do is to blame it, but yeah, I can see that as a possible reading. So this sonnet, we're kind of heading back in. We've had I can't remember your official phrasing, but it was like a sea of boring sonnets, where they were all very one-dimensional.
I think calm, ocean of calm or something.
And they were one-dimensional. This we're now starting to get into with Sonnet 30 and 31, back into the quite deep sonnets where there are multiple levels to them. So Shakespeare's kind of hit his stride again now. Not that any of these sonnets
back on
really
track.
Yeah, back on track. And I know that the sonnets weren't necessarily written to be read in this order, but it's the order we're reading it in, and sonnet I'm going to imply whatever I want about that order. It's my prerogative. Would you like?
It's all about the war in Iraq.
Yes, this sonnet is Shakespeare's look on the occupation of Iraq, and I think it's quite good. It's rather good. Would you like to read us out, and then we shall move on to the...
I'll read us out.
Yes. Can you get through this one?
Sonnet 31. I'll try to. Sonnet 31. Thy bosom is endeared with all hearts, which I by lacking have supposed dead. And there reigns love, and all love's loving parts, and all those friends which I thought buried. How many a holy and obsequious tear hath dear religious love stolen from mine eye, as interest of the dead which now appear but things removed that hidden in thee lie. Thou art the grave where buried love doth lie. That would have changed the meaning quite a lot.
Yeah.
Thou art the grave where buried love doth live, hung with the trophies of my lovers gone, who all their parts of me to thee did give. That due of many now is thine alone. Their images I loved, I view in thee, and thou, or they, hast all the all of me.
Very good. That was Sonnet 31. I've been Mark Chatterley, and you can follow me on Twitter if you like. I'm at Nufkin, and I've been joined by, as always,
Thierry Heles, and you can find me on Twitter at Sound of Seagulls.
And we will be back next time with Sonnet 32. See you later.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to Shakespeare Sonnets with Mark Chatterley and Thierry Heles. This has been an In-Ear Entertainment podcast. To listen to other podcasts or find out more about In-Ear Entertainment, go to www.inearentertainment.com.